Hottest
Yeah,
tech
no,
companies are
can y'all hear
desperate
me?
to hire for customer success.
No, they can't hear us.
They should be able to hear you now.
Why doesn't
Hi,
every
my name
home
is
in the
Spike
U.S.
Cohen.
have solar panels? The number one reason is not about sunlight or weather or even politics.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Hey, everybody. Yeah, no, it's working. Hi. Thank you, Joe. Uh, I'm Spike Cohen, and the Muddy Waters of
Okay.
Freedom, and share us and like us and do all those things.
Yeah, sorry about that, everybody. I literally tested everything right beforehand, and as soon as we went live, it
Yep.
all went to shit because this is a Muddied
That's
Waters
what
Media
happens.
Productions.
Because this is a Muddy Waters media production.
It is a Muddied
Muddy.
Waters.
We should call it muddied audio. We should call it muddied audio media.
Yes, we need somebody to come in and just be like a full-fledged audio person and handle all of this
Yes.
for us. So,
Yep.
well, yeah, my stream everywhere died completely because everything froze and I had to reset really quickly.
Oh, good.
So-
But we're live now.
We're live now. Yeah, we've got people coming in. We got comments coming in.
Fantastic.
Yes, this happened because I couldn't think of a mildly anti-Semitic comment, and I apologize.
Just end the show.
So, first and foremost, allow me to thank Justin for the kava that I'm drinking on today's episode. And
I'd like to thank LeBlanc for this
yeah.
water. And I'd like to thank the Libertarian Party of Gaston County and the Libertarian Party of North Carolina for having me come up to their their rally for justice and compassion for Joshua Rohrer and Pastor Moses Colbert and all the people that I spoke with today at the Gastonia, North Carolina City Council meeting, where we scared the hell out of them.
Yeah, so I saw that you were doing that today. You'd think I would know
Yes.
better. It went well, I assume.
Yes, it went very well. The city council was not happy. And that's good. That's what we want right now. We want them not to be happy. The chief of police was not happy at all. He was very not happy, which is good. Again, that's the vibe we want. This is the stick, and then we come back later with the carrot. But right now we want them to really spend some time with the stick. And so that was good. And we also made some really good connections in the community with others who have been struggling with this, including we're now working with a coalition of 34 churches who are trying to get the city of Gastonia to just let them feed and shelter homeless people, which they're not letting them do. So yeah, it's good. It's good stuff.
So we have the state of the you know the thing getting ready to start here, right there. So what do you think Biden's going to talk about today?
Gosh, I think he's going to touch on everything. He's just going to BS us through the whole thing. You know, this inflation is because our economy is doing so great, guys. And you know, I actually, you know what? I think Vladimir Putin gave him kind of a bit of a gift because he can literally just go up on this State of the Union and talk shit about Russia for an hour and a half and get away with it. I do think he just will give very light lip service to some of the other issues. It's really hard to tell. He may decide to give his full speech that he was going to give before, but I would guess that all that got ripped up after the Russia invaded the Ukraine. So we'll see. I tend to think he's going to focus mostly on Ukraine and Russia because it kind of buys him not having to talk about how much he sucks as a president.
You don't think he's going to talk about COVID?
Oh, yeah. No, he's definitely going to touch on COVID, and he's definitely going to touch on inflation, and he's definitely going to touch on supply chain problems and all of that. I don't think he can just like not talk about those things, but I think he's going to focus mostly on the new COVID, which is Russia. Yeah, look, they've got their Ukrainian flags there and everything, just to show.
We've got Joe Biden coming down. We got Joe Biden getting ready to come down. He's going to do his 5-minute walk down. Any bets on who a designated survivor is?
Yeah. That's going to be I think that's. I mean, he kind of walks like that anyway. For
He
some
does,
reason.
right? My
Not
money
a
is
sea
that
change and.
my money is on Pete Buttigieg being the designated survivor. I don't think we'll see Pete Buttigieg here tonight. I think that he's in a bunker somewhere just in case Putin decides to nuke the State of the Union.
Which, by the way, he has the capability of doing. Vladimir Putin has access to super hypersonic missiles that can reach any point in the United States in roughly 5 minutes. So, I mean, that's not outside of the realm of possibility. I don't see it happening, but I do think it certainly is possible. So Pete Buttigieg, hopefully he's wearing a mask and is vaccinated.
I think that I think Biden's going to try to say he did a good job in his first year and a half or whatever as president, and he's going to touch on COVID. He's going to hit it a lot, even though anybody with a brain knows that he had nothing to do and his policies had nothing to do with COVID going the way that it has. Let's see.
Yeah.
Here he comes.
Members of Congress, I have the high privilege and distinct honor of presenting to you the President of the United States.
Do you think she's going to tear up his speech at the end? Can you hear me still?
I can kind of hear you.
Do you think she's going to tear up his speech at the end of this?
Oh, I hope so. I hope he tears his own speech up.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Thank you.
Tom
Thank
Stewart,
you all
one.
very, very much. Thank you. Please. Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, our First Lady and Second Gentleman, members of Congress and the Cabinet, Justice of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart. This year, we're finally together again. Tonight,
it's the worst it's ever.
Case numbers are through the roof.
We meet as Democrats, Republicans, Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny.
Well, that's true. People eventually gave up on the lockdown and so forth because they realized they didn't work. So thanks to COVID, apparently freedom triumphed over tyranny. We're all together because we decided that our ideas were bad.
6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought to shake
There
the
it
very
is.
foundations of the free world, thinking he could make it bend to his menacing ways. But he badly miscalculated. He thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
That's his angle?
Like, that's technically true, but that's not something for... That's not what he should be bragging about.
You're bragging that the
Ukrainians,
civilians
their
are fighting?
fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies. Everyone from students to retirees to teachers turned soldiers,
Same machine guns.
defending their homeland. And in this struggle,
The
President
machine guns.
Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and
Close
send
to
an
that.
unmistakable signal to the world.
Where is the?
Sitting.
Oh, excuse me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why is there a seat?
They socially distance her.
Thank you.
Oh,
thank
for
you.
God's sake! I hope that's not what it is.
It's
That's
look at the spacing. It's 100% while they're socially distancing.
Oh, that's definitely keeping the Omicron variant at bay. That you have a seat between. What a.
She's strong and she's resolved.
I want to, if he says anything about assault weapons in Ukraine,
Machine guns. Talk about the machine guns.
please talk about them. If he says anything about the machine guns, it will destroy his entire
We, the United States of America,
his entire
stand with
thing
the
on
Ukrainian
guns here.
people. Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos. They keep moving.
See our entire
The cost, the
foreign
threats
policy.
to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II.
Great
The
job.
United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents, to confront Putin. Like many of you, I spent countless hours unifying
That had to be
our
the hardest
European
sentence for
allies.
him to say so far.
We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning and precisely how he would try to falsify and justify his aggression. We countered Russia's lies with the truth. And now that he's acted, the free world is holding him accountable, along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others. Even Switzerland are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine.
But you know
Putin
who's
is
not?
now isolated from the world more than he has ever been.
China. Or you.
Together,
Or you. You're failing to put a sanction on their oil. That is the one
Yeah.
thing that will hurt them.
Yep.
Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks in the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access. We're choking Russia's access to technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who bilked billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more. The United States, I mean it.
It was unprovoked, Matt. There was no.
There was no
Nothing happened.
No provocation that would make them do this.
We're joining with
It's a
European
mystery
allies
why
to
I even
find
did it
and
in the first
seize
place.
Their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets. We're coming for your ill-begotten gains. And tonight, I'm announcing that we will join our
Oh, is he talking
allies
about
in
Lockheed
closing
Martin?
off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia
Raytheon.
and adding additional squeeze on their economy.
Oh, good. So in case anyone was trying to flee Russia, you can't.
Right.
They
Fantastic.
have no idea what's coming.
This is similar to when FDR
already
announced he wasn't going to let anyone
30% of
leave
its
Germany
value.
during the beginning,
The Russian
before World
stock
War
market
II.
has lost 40% of its value, and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling, and Putin alone is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering.
So he just bragged about starving Russian civilians, which is what all that will do,
Yes.
and then keeping them from being able to flee, including the Russians that are against this war, that are protesting this war.
Our forces are not engaged and will not engage in the conflict with Russian forces in Ukraine. Our forces are not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose, we have mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries, including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. Every single inch.
That's why he did what he did. He invaded Ukraine so you wouldn't have them join NATO.
Right.
Like, that's why he did it.
I mean, I get that Biden has a reason to want to defend Ukraine.
Pure courage.
Yeah.
But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos. But while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people,
moral loss,
proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have. They've known
this is disgusting. This putting this on Ukrainian civilians thing that they're doing in U.S.
They will not
press.
tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans.
How bad of a...
I'll be honest with you.
All right, sorry guys, I'm going to have to mute him a little bit really quick because he's just going to talk about that for a while. How bad does the first 2 years of your term, of your administration, have to be that the only thing you have to talk about at your very first State of the Union is a different union in which you were behind in every aspect of it? You were behind in giving any sanctions. You were behind in giving any kind of support. You were behind in all of it. And this is what you have to come out and talk about. You don't have anything else. That is how bad he is as a president. If it wasn't for the fact that Germany, that Russia invaded Ukraine, he would have nothing to talk about right now.
Yeah. He just announced that they are releasing around the world. They're releasing 60 million barrels of oil. That's a couple weeks worth of world. I think, yeah, a couple weeks worth of world.
2 days.
2 days. There you go.
2 days. It's 25 million barrels a day, I think.
Yeah. Well, there you go. 2 days.
And while it shouldn't have taken something so terrible for people around the world to see what's at stake, now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. In the battle between democracy and autocracies, democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test, and it's going to take time. So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans who forged the deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle
we stand
Kyiv
very
with
far
tanks,
behind you,
but he'll never gain the
We
hearts and
stand
souls of the Iranian people.
10,000 miles away.
He'll never
Where we
extinguish
belong,
our love of
honestly.
freedom,
it is.
and he will never weaken the resolve of the free world.
Wait till this guy finds out what the Saudis are doing in Yemen, huh?
I know. Wait till that comes out. He's going to be just...
Can't wait till all the flag waving, Yemen flag waving, and announcing that we're not going to arm their genocide anymore. That's going to be fun.
In an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families
Biden
are
years.
living paycheck to paycheck. struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing,
Gee,
and
why
so
is
much
that?
more.
Why is there a
I
rising
understand,
cost?
like many of you did.
What happened?
My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's when one of the first things I did as president was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people
The prices
were
are
hurting.
still going up.
The price
We
of
needed to
that
act,
did
and we
nothing.
did.
That
Few pieces of
helped with
legislation have done
inflation.
more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis. It fueled our efforts to vaccinate the nation and combat
worse.
COVID-19, delivered immediate economic relief to tens of millions of Americans. It helped put food on the table. Remember those long lines of cars waiting for hours just to get a box of food put in their trunk? It cut the cost of health care insurance.
Did he grow up
And as
in
my
Russia?
dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut
It's
passed in the
getting
previous
worse.
administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan,
You supported that spending.
the American Rescue Plan
All of them supported
helped
that
working
spending.
people and left no one behind.
You literally supported the spending that you just blasted.
He may okay, so
And
he
it's
may have been
gotten
talking. He may have
worse.
been talking about the tax cut that Trump gave in his first year, but the spending that happened in the last year of Trump, in the first year of Biden, is what has led to the inflation we are seeing, the record inflation that we are seeing now. The fact that we have inflation that is outpacing most wage growth speaks volumes to how these policies aren't working, and trying to spin it as anything other than the failure that it is just sad.
Than ever before in the history of the
Oh, now
That's
he's claiming the job. So we finally let people go back to work, and now they're working. Amazing.
40 years. And the first step in bringing fundamental change to our economy that hasn't worked for working people in this nation for too long. For the past 40 years,
Wow,
we were
Mitch
told
McConnell's having
the tax break for those
bad
at the
day.
top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit. But that trickle-down theory led to a weaker economic growth, lower wages, bigger deficits, and a widening gap.
The
between
tax rate's
top
the same
and everyone
now.
else
Right now.
in nearly a century. Look, Vice President Harris and I ran for office, and I realize we have fundamental disagreements on this, but ran for office with a new economic vision for America. Invest in America, educate Americans, grow the workforce, build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down.
Nothing
Because we know. Because we know.
It's
Because we know when the middle class grows, the poor have a way up and the wealthy do very well. America used to have the best roads, bridges, and airports on earth. And now our infrastructure is ranked 13th in the world. We won't be able to compete
Because it
for
was
jobs in the 21st
federalized.
century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the
Wait, I thought he was in a
bipartisan
bunker.
infrastructure law. And I
oh
thank
man,
my
he's not.
Republican
He's
friends
not the guy.
Where's your bunker?
to invest.
Breaking news, everybody! Pete Buttigieg is not the designated survivor.
Single biggest investment in history. It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen. We're done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade.
Oh, God.
Look, it's going to
Prices are going up. Supply chain issues
transform
are getting
America.
worse.
Put us
Labor
on a
issues
path
are
to
getting
win the
worse.
economic
Everything is
competition.
worse. The last COVID wave was the worst COVID wave. I actually got COVID.
So
Like
yeah.
everything's
From
getting
him.
worse.
It's never been a good bet to bet against
Yes.
the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across America. And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote environmental justice.
Infects.
We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Begin to replace
Which
the
will lie
poisonous
fallow
lead pipes
because they're
so
unneeded.
every child,
Right.
every
Where-
American
where
has
are you
clean
putting
water
those?
to drink at home and at school. We're going to provide affordable, high-speed internet for every American, rural, suburban, urban, and tribal communities. 4,000 projects.
Elon Musk is about to do that with Earthlink,
Skylink.
and you're making it harder.
Starlink?
I'm
Starlink?
announcing that this year, we will start fixing
Starlink.
over 65,000 miles of highway.
Yeah, it's Starlink.
1,500 bridges in disrepair. And folks,
I don't trust the government to fix these things. I understand the thinking that the money needs to come from somewhere, but it would, and you'd be able to find your Tom Arnold that would be able to fix it cheaper, more efficiently, faster, and without all of the pushbacks that you get from a federally or even locally government-funded program.
spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat and Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it.
Can we just not spend that at all?
But folks,
We could just keep the money in the pockets of Americans.
to compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China and other competitors. That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. We used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development. We don't
Everything
now.
he's talking about right now is
China.
handed out to major crony businesses. That's all of this, is that big business and big corporations. That's all he's talking about right now, is using your money on big business and big corporations. So when he's talking about, oh, Donald Trump only helped the 1%, literally everything he's talking about right now is helping the 1%.
America's future will be built. That's where Intel, the American company that helped build Silicon Valley,
Intel
is
there's
going to
one.
build a $20 billion semiconductor megasite, up to 8 state-of-the-art factories in one place.
Because we paid them to.
10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average job about $135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips the size of a fingertip that power the world in everyday lives. From smartphones, technology, the internet, technology that's yet to be invented. But that's just the beginning. Intel CEO Pat Gelsinger, who is here tonight, I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go, Pat, stand up.
Wow, the corporate cronies get to have a chance to stand up and talk to people?
Pat,
Oh, at least he has a Ukrainian flag. That's
Well,
nice.
yeah.
Intel's a
Pat
big
came
supplier
see
to the
me, and he
military
told me
industrial
they're ready
complex,
to
so that makes
increase their
sense.
investment from $20 billion to $100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to pass this bill. So let's not wait any longer. Send it to my
He
desk. I'll
literally
sign it,
just said,
and we'll really
if
take
you
off
don't
in a
sign
big
this
way.
bill, big businesses aren't going to spend money here.
Folks,
Like,
Intel is not alone. There's something happening in America. Just look around and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's
that's not
happening.
true. That's
Ford is investing
the manufacturing
$11 billion
sector is
in electric
continuing to
vehicles,
decline.
creating
Continue-
11,000
it's not
jobs across the
growing,
country.
and it's definitely
GM is
not
making the
growing
largest
in the last
investment
year.
in its history. $7 billion.
And they
to
can't
build
hire
electric
anyone
vehicles, creating
here.
4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone.
That's because you
because
let
they were
people go
allowed to
back.
reopen.
Exactly. You could go back to work. People could find work again. You shut down the economy all across the nation, and then you were like, look, I made it better. Look how many people are now working.
Generations of union steelworkers in Pittsburgh. Who's here tonight? Where are you, JoJo? There you go. Thanks, buddy. As Ohio,
Oh.
as Ohio Senator Sherrod Brown says, it's time to bury the label Rust Belt. It's time to see the what used to be called the Rust Belt become the home of a significant resurgence of manufacturing.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
And with all the bright
There we
spots
go.
in our economy,
Sundowning moment, everybody. Drink.
It's coming.
job growth, higher wages.
He's reading from a
families are struggling to
teleprompter.
keep up with
Okay,
their bills.
it's starting.
Inflation
It's starting.
is robbing them of gains they thought otherwise they would be able to feel. I get it. That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster
It's
than
still
almost
getting
anyone
worse.
predicted. But the pandemic meant that businesses had a hard time hiring enough people because of the pandemic to keep
No,
up
because of
production in their
lockdowns.
factories.
No,
So
because
you
of
didn't have
lockdowns.
people making those beams that went into buildings because they were out. The factory was closed.
because
Panic
of
also
lockdowns.
disrupted the global supply chain.
Beans
Because
that
of
went into the
Factories
building.
Close. When that happens, it takes
Those
longer
old
to make
building
goods
beans.
and get them to the warehouses, to the stores.
It's
and
happening.
prices
It's
go up.
starting.
Look at cars last year. 1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough
That's not true.
semiconductors to
No,
make all the cars
that's
that
not-
people wanted to buy. And guess
That
what?
isn't true.
Prices of automobiles went
We,
That's
The-
not true.
that is not true.
That's not 1/3 of inflation. That amounts for 1/3 of the increase in inflation across all goods. It's not 1/3 of the total inflation that happened. It was far outstripped by food.
not your wages. And folks, that means make more cars and semiconductors in America, more infrastructure and innovation in America, more goods moving faster and cheaper in America, more jobs where you can earn a good living in America.
Sounds like he's selling out Taiwan immediately.
Let's make it in America. Look, economists,
That could be done without giving multi-trillion-dollar bailouts to cronies like you're proposing.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, no, are they chanting USA?
They are chanting USA as they fight for its decline.
our economy. I call it building a better America.
It sounds a lot like
My
Build Back
plan
Better.
to fight inflation.
Building a better America? That
will
sounds
lower
like
your
making
costs
it
and lower
great
the
again.
deficit. 17 Nobel laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures.
These fucking
Top business
the
leaders.
same 17
And I
people.
believe
Can we
most Americans
acknowledge
support
they
the
were
plan.
wrong at this point?
Here's the plan. First,
I was
cut the
wrong
cost
like
of
a week
prescription
ago,
drugs.
and I admitted to it. These people have been consistently wrong for months and years.
pay
Can we
more
acknowledge these 17 economists were
same
wrong?
drug
Can we just
produced by
say
the same
they were
company
wrong?
in
Yes.
America
That
and
okay?
any other country in the world. Just look at insulin. 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes. In Virginia, I met a 13-year-old boy, the handsome young man standing up there, Joshua Davis. He and his dad both have type 1 diabetes, which means they need insulin every single day. Insulin costs about $10 a vial to make. That's what it costs the pharmaceutical company. But drug companies charge families like Joshua and his dad up to 30 times that amount.
Because
spoke
you
with Joshua's
enforce
mom.
patent protections on them.
Imagine what it's like to look at your child who needs insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it.
Because of your
What it does
restrictions.
to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to
Because
look
of
your child
you.
in the eye. To
Because
be
of
the
you.
parent you expect yourself to be. I really mean
You.
to think about that. That's what
No,
I
you.
think about.
No,
You
you.
know, yesterday, Joshua's here tonight, but yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, buddy, by the way. For Joshua and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month.
Just let them make generics.
Just
It would
wait.
be less than $10.
If people can make generic insulin and you didn't have to get it from one, I've got a friend that's diabetic, and I used to know the names of the companies.
Just let them make generics.
But if you could make generics, prices would automatically go down, and you wouldn't have to worry about capping prices because the market would do it automatically.
And what he just proposed, letting Medicare negotiate the price of drugs, every time the federal government gets involved with drug pricing negotiations, the pricing goes up. Surprise, surprise.
Charlotte Ray said, did they socially distance the kid? And Biden probably didn't backstage.
Permanent.
No, the kid's fine.
Second.
The kid only has type 1 diabetes.
Let's cut energy costs for families. An average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business. To
Why
be
not
energy
just
efficient
allow for
and
nuclear?
Get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price
how are
of
they gonna
electric
make that?
vehicles, saving another $80 a
That's
month
stuff
that
with
you're not going to have to pay
fossil
at the
fuels.
pump. Folks,
You're still going to have to pay at the pump. Not everybody can buy an electric car. Not everybody wants an electric car.
Yeah.
You're still going to be selling gasoline. You're not going to go to carbon emission zero. People are still going to buy gasoline, making it unaffordable for people who are in the lower classes, in the middle class, lower middle class, and lower class. Only hurts them.
Yeah.
It becomes a tax on those people.
I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though. I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan would cut the cost of child care in half for most families.
No, it wouldn't. It would pay off and cause the price to go up like you've done with higher education and everything else that you subsidize. And then the price goes up, and it goes up for the taxpayer and for the person paying out of pocket for it. It doesn't work. Then you'll be back here in a few years calling for a pay cap for childcare workers.
Right. It's like Obamacare. Obamacare didn't make health insurance less expensive. It subsidized some of it for some people. But a lot of those people had to pay that subsidy back at the end of the year, and they didn't know that.
Yep.
It ended up increasing how much health insurance was. This will do the same thing
Exactly.
for child care. And
Yeah.
child care is
Yeah.
already really expensive, I have discovered.
If we took a secret ballot
Yeah,
in this
exactly.
floor, that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to.
I
It's not
agree.
fair to anyone.
It's not fair to anybody.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I agree. There should not be taxes.
Corporations
There should be
that
no
love
tax.
Americans start paying their fair share. Look,
I agree. Everyone's fair
year-
share is $0.
Right.
last
Agreed.
year, and like Chris Coons and Tom Carper and my distinguished Congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America. There are more corporations incorporated in America than every other state in America combined. And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even
Because
they
you're the
understand
head.
you should pay
You
just a fair
literally just
share.
said it. You're the
Last
head of
year,
corporate America, and you got
55
elected
of
for
the
36
Fortune
years because
500
you're one of the biggest
companies
cronies in there.
earned $40 billion in profit and paid zero in federal taxes. Now look, it's not fair. That's why I
No, we
proposed
shouldn't be
a
paying taxes
15%
either.
minimum tax rate for corporations. We've got
That will cause one of the biggest
And that's
increases
why
in the price of goods
in the
and
G7
services
and
that we
other
will
meetings
see in
overseas
our
we're able
lives.
to put together, I was able to be somewhat helpful. 130 countries agree on a global minimum tax rate. So companies can't get out of paying their taxes at home by shipping jobs and factories overseas. It'll raise
except for
billions of
China.
dollars.
Right.
That's why I
Except, yeah.
proposed
Because
closing
China's
loopholes
definitely
for
going to
fire
agree to
wealthy
that, right,
pay.
Joe? So is
Along with
Russia,
pay a
too.
lower
All
tax
these
rate
countries
than
are going to
teacher
agree
or
to it.
firefighter.
I guess you could just sanction them and cut ourselves off from some of the biggest economies on earth. That'll definitely help us economically.
We'll grow the economy, lower the cost of families. So what are we waiting for? Let's get this done. We
15%
all
down.
know we've got to make changes.
What Spike said was 100% right. Like, if you go with a global corporate tax rate, China's not going to agree to that. Russia's not going to agree to that. I don't see Germany.
No, Brazil's not going to agree to it. Any of the developing countries aren't going to agree to it.
India
and so
won't
that's
agree
just
to
going
it.
to hasten the move of jobs and investment to those countries.
Yep. And if they somehow make it where you can't do that, you will see the greatest price increase possibly of the last 200 years in America.
Yeah. Yeah. And it'll be almost instantly. Yeah.
We had those debates about whether or not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where was it going to the right place. But in my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans. And tonight I'm announcing that the Justice Department will soon name a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud.
Hey, I'd like to report the Gastonia City Council who spent COVID relief money on tasers.
They're just going after Cuomo hard, aren't they?
I'd like to report that President Joseph Biden directed $450 billion of COVID relief funding to the militarization of the police. Where do I fill that form out?
Right. Where is there an online thing, or is this something that we just call in?
Do I just call? Yeah.
I've got the White House's number.
Capitalism without competition is exploitation.
So cut out the restrictions that stop competition.
Right. Make it easier for people to start
compete.
businesses.
Their profits go up and your prices go up when they don't have to compete.
Oh, you mean like
Small businesses and
Intel?
family farmers and ranchers, I need not tell some of my Republican friends from those states. Guess what? You got 4 basic meat packing facilities. That's it. You play with them or you don't get to play at all. And you pay
Because
a
of
hell of a lot
USDA
more.
subsidies and a requirement that all meat that is taken from that is put through to a store or put to the consumer has to go through a USDA approved butcher, and there's only a handful of them, and they're tied directly to those 4 meat packers. You built that. Your regulations that you built with the rest of Congress for the USDA built that.
That's like the opposite of the Obama thing.
It's insane what this man is saying. And he knows it's a lie. Actually, he didn't know anything. He's falling
doesn't
apart
know anything.
cognitively. But the people that wrote his speech and the people that are putting together his policies know all of this is not true.
Yes.
That ends
You know, I talk about how politicians grandstand on your suffering so they can push for even more control. This State of the Union is nothing but that.
And they will look at closely. We're also going to
I
cut
know
costs
you're
to keep the
suffering.
economy
I
going
can feel
strong
your suffering.
give your
And that's
workers a
why
fair
tonight
shot.
I'm announcing even
Provide
more power
training
control
and
money and
apprenticeships,
funding
hire
for the
them
people that
based on
created your
skills,
suffering.
Not just their degrees. Let's pass the
Oh, hey, look,
Paycheck Fairness
Intel.
Act and paid leave. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And extend the child tax credit so no one has to raise a family in poverty. Let's increase Pell Grants, increase our historic support for HBCUs, and invest in what Jill,
Someone just yelled
our
no.
First Lady who teaches full-time, calls America's best-kept secret, community colleges. Look,
Oh, they're going to make community colleges
let's pass the
unaffordable.
PRO Act. When the majority of
Fantastic.
workers want to form a union, they shouldn't be able to be stopped. When we invest in our workers and we
The PRO
build an
Act
economy from the
doesn't
bottom
allow
up
for a
and the middle
secret
out
ballot,
together, we can do something we haven't
so
done
the
in a long
unions can just
time.
go around and
Build a better America.
Force people.
pressure
For more than
people
2
into
years,
signing the
COVID
thing.
has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated, and exhausted. That doesn't even count the close to 1 million people who sit at a dining room table or a kitchen table and look at an empty chair because they lost somebody. But I also know this.
Grandstand on your
Because of the progress
suffering.
we've made,
Yep.
because of your resilience and the tools that we have been provided by this Congress, tonight I can say we're moving forward safely back to a more normal routines. We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19, where severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines. Under the new guidelines, most Americans in most of the country.
Is it because your poll numbers are in the garbage and you know that there is going to be a
He
red
just said
tsunami?
COVID is a terrible thing and it's getting worse. And that's why we're telling you the mask guidelines were garbage in the first place.
Garbage in the first place. Oh, and by the way, the vaccines that we made your 5 to 11-year-old work had 12% efficacy. Congratulations.
Congratulations, everyone.
We'll continue to combat the virus.
Lockdowns didn't help.
And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. And here are 4 common sense steps as we move forward safely, in my view. First, stay protected with vaccines and treatments. We know how incredibly effective vaccines are. If you're vaccinated and boosted, you have the highest degree of protection. We'll never give up on vaccinating more Americans.
They're changing their
kids under 5 are eager to see their vaccines authorized for
They've
their
been
children.
changing this for so long.
Scientists are working hard to get that.
Okay. They've been changing this for so long. They're like, we all remember, even though they'll say that, no, they never said that if you get the vaccine, you won't get COVID. They 100% said it.
They said that.
This guy said it. He said it.
Pandemic of the unvaccinated. Yep.
Pandemic of the unvaccinated. Even before that, he goes, if you go out and you get vaccinated, you're not going to get COVID. You're just not. And then it became, well, you need to become vaccinated and get boosted. And now it's vaccinated, boosted with treatment. Well, I don't know. Maybe if you just learned how to treat it at the beginning instead of focusing your entire thing on finding a vaccine for a virus. And if you've been working on if you could get a vaccine for a virus, why do we still have the common cold? Because viruses mutate. I was going to say vaccines mutate. Because viruses mutate, you can't do it. I have known that since 5th grade science. And you have been doing this entire time. You have been changing the narrative. Saturday Night Live is changing the narrative for you. Everybody is changing the narrative. The reason that mask guidelines are going to be coming up here in a little bit, that they're lifted in LA and LA schools tomorrow and across the nation, they've been kind of going away, is because Democrats are polling so terribly that among people who are likely to vote, they're down 17 points. That is not close. They are going to get destroyed in November. And everything he is saying now is, like Spike said, grandstanding on your suffering.
On your suffering. Yep.
Grandstanding on your suffering and saying, we did it. We beat it. Now you can get rid of your masks. Now you can overturn this. We still may have to pull it back, though. They think, the entire administration and everybody left, right, everybody, they think we're stupid and that we're not going to remember this.
No.
America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people. People working from home can feel safe and begin to return to their offices. We're doing that
So
here
end the
in
mandate.
federal government. The vast majority of federal workers will once again work in person. Our schools are open. Let's keep it that way. Our kids need to be in school.
You fought to close them. You fought to mask them. You fought to create this disruption. And now you're the font of wisdom that you are, you're deeming it appropriate for us to finally be around each other again. And the thing is, the disconnect here is that the vast majority of people have resumed living their lives. And they look at this crap and say, oh, okay, yeah, we're not going to take you seriously.
Most Americans can remove their masks and stay in the classroom and move forward safely. We achieved this because we provided free vaccines, treatments,
If they
tests,
want to
and
wear the
masks.
mask, they should wear the mask.
Of course, continuing this costs money. So I'll not surprise you. I'll be back to see you all.
The funny thing about this is that by making it sound like we don't have to wear masks anymore, there are going to be people who maybe wouldn't otherwise wear masks who aren't going to because the government told them not to, because they've made mandate synonymous with good idea.
We've sent 475 million vaccine doses to 112 countries, more than any nation on earth. We won't stop. Because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases.
The word he was looking for was
It
virus.
didn't. No, it didn't.
Everybody just knows.
It literally didn't.
Much loss of life. Let's use this moment to reset So stop looking at COVID as a partisan dividing line. See it for what it is.
Stop making it one.
A god-awful disease. Let's stop seeing each other as enemies and start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans. Look.
Look. Hey,
What does that have to do with what you just
look.
said?
Hey, all we need to do is stop forcing how we want people to live on them and destroying their businesses and their livelihoods and taking away all of their ability to go out and vaccine. They don't give a shit about you.
No.
New York City Police Department, days after the funerals of Officer Wilbur Mora and his partner, Officer Jason Rivera.
Oh, here's where he announces
They're
police
responding to a
militarization.
9/11 call when a man shot and killed them with a stolen gun. Officer Moore
Imagine
was 27
voting-
years old. Officer Rivera was
Imagine
22 years
voting
old.
for Joe Biden
Both
because you wanted to
Dominican
defund the police.
Who grew up in the same streets that they later chose to patrol as police officers. I spoke with their families.
Rainbow
I told
fascism.
them that we are forever in debt for their sacrifices and will carry on their mission to restore the trust and safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time,
Yeah, 94 crime bill.
investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know
Community
the
policing,
neighborhood.
by the way, is
and who
their
can
code
restore
term
trust
for
and safety.
militarized policing.
Let's
It
not
is a
abandon our
program
streets.
from the Department of
Choose
Homeland
between
Security.
safety
It is
and equal
militarized
justice.
policing. It
Let's
is not
come together and
community
protect our
policing.
communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock.
I'm in
warrants to
Gastonia.
officers.
They don't have to release
That's
the
why the
footage.
American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies.
Military equipment. And the body cams mean nothing if you don't have to release the footage or turn them on. Or you have qualified immunity if you still beat someone up and there's video of it.
Violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police.
Wow.
Every Democrat that stands up should be remembered by anybody who voted for them in 2020. Because
If you thought you didn't vote for a fascist, there it is right there.
there was no way that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris were going to come out there and take on the world stage and go, okay, we want to defund the police. He was the author of the 1994 crime bill. Kamala Harris was the most notorious prosecutor for putting people in prison. She let two guys sit on death row that she knew were innocent because she didn't want it to hurt her record. I think it was two. There was no way that they were going to come out and act like they were going to defund the police. That was such a facade that they put on for 2020 just because that was the topic du jour. And now they're hoping that once again, you forgot.
Yep.
Kevlar vests? Look, repeal the
Not about
liability
deer.
shield that makes gun manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one.
Big Pharma.
Imagine had we done that with the tobacco manufacturers. These laws don't
Yeah.
infringe.
Can I sue Pfizer?
They save lives.
Can I sue Moderna?
The most fundamental right
Can
in
I sue
America is the right to
can
vote. And have-
foreign members of foreign countries sue Boeing, Lockheed Martin?
In state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before, but to subvert the entire election. We can't let this happen. Tonight,
No, I
call on
thought
the
that we
Senate
can't say that. We
pass-
can't say that
pass the
elections are
Freedom to
being
Vote
subverted.
Act, pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. And while you're at it,
And he spent the entire first 10 minutes of this thing talking about how great it was that the Ukrainian people have been rising up against this fascist dictator who's walked into their country. Granted, he didn't mention the weapons that they were given and the body armor that they're wearing.
Yeah,
to
you'll
do
notice.
so.
Yeah, he didn't mention the machine
He
guns.
didn't mention it, but everybody kind of understood that that was how it was being done. And then now, because he thinks you forgot 50 minutes later that he was praising this, now he's saying, we need to get rid of that. You don't need it. You don't need Kevlar vests. Yes, you do.
Yeah. Now he's about to announce his diversity pick that he could have just said he was picking her. But first he has to virtue signal about race and gender to make sure that everyone always marks this woman as a diversity pick, even though she might be a great Supreme Court justice. He could have just picked her. Yep. Everyone would have seen she was a black woman, but now she's going to, he's going to, there we go.
Yep. Yeah, she is always going to be remembered as the woman who was picked because Joe Biden needed to pick a black woman.
Yep.
She will never be remembered.
And won't stop talking about it.
And won't stop talking about it. She won't be remembered. And I have not had time to look up her history. I do not know if I agree with her or disagree with her. I can take some bets, but I don't know, so I can't comment on that. But what I know is even if she is the perfect guess or the perfect pick, she will always be remembered for this.
Yeah,
we need to
absolutely.
secure our border and fix the immigration system.
Secure our border. You know you were voting for that, y'all? Incredible.
He got Ted Cruz to stand up.
Ted Cruz is standing up.
This reminds me of when
secure our border.
When Trump was talking about family leave act, maternal leave act, and like the squad all stood up. He's like, "You weren't supposed to do that. Ha ha! I got you." Like that was his Trump moment.
We're putting in place dedicated immigration judges, a significant larger number, so families fleeing persecution and violence can have their cases heard faster, and those who don't legitimately hear can be sent back. We're screening, we're securing commitments and supporting partners in South and Central America to host more refugees and secure their own borders. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led to generations.
Can you imagine if Donald Trump had announced that he was helping other countries build walls?
Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those with temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Revise our laws so businesses have workers they need and families don't wait decades to reunite.
No, everybody that was against securing the border and sending back people who weren't here legitimately on the Democrat side that stood up and cheered, they were not doing that 2 years ago. They weren't doing that 2 years ago.
No. And stopped them from even being able to come here.
Advancing liberty and justice also requires protecting the rights of women. The constitutional right affirmed by Roe v. Wade, standing precedent for half a century, is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans.
He managed to talk about all of that without saying the word abortion.
For our LGBTQ plus Americans, let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong. And I said last year, especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential. Folks, as I've just demonstrated, while it often appears we do not agree, and that we do agree on a lot more things than we acknowledge. I signed 80 bipartisan bills into law last year, from preventing government shutdowns to protecting...
Congress agrees routinely, yes. That's not the rest. We don't like you. We don't like any of it.
And will soon be strengthening the Violence Against Women Act that I first wrote 3 decades ago. It's important.
That was the same year that he wrote the 1994 crime bill.
Yeah.
We can come together and do big things. So not
all the 90s kids watching are like, oh man, I'm about to be 30.
First, beat the opioid epidemic. There's so much we can do. Increased funding for prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop doctors that stop doctors prescribing treatments. Stop the flow of illicit drugs by working with state and local law enforcement to go after the traffickers. And if you're suffering from addiction,
the stopping doctors from prescribing is good, but you're not going to stop the drug traffic when the CIA and DEA are part of it.
And not only that, but how are you going to get to the traffickers? You're going to be arresting the low-level addicts who are stuck, just they have a problem, probably because a doctor prescribed them something, they got hooked. And, you know, no fault of their own. Now they're out looking for their oxys or their Percocets or their Vicodins or whatever, and they get arrested for having it illegally. And now you're putting these people in prison, giving them a record unless they tell them who their supplier is.
Yep.
That causes more problems.
Yep. And then they add them as a metric of being a trafficker.
Yep.
The big traffickers have relationships with the DEA and the ATF, the FBI, and the CIA. They work with them every day.
accountable for the national experiment they're conducting
on
our
that
children
person.
for profit.
So now you have the government pressuring social media to censor. I know he's talking about child exploitation, but that's not their main focus. Their main focus is on suppressing dissenting opinion on social media.
Privacy protections. Ban targeted advertising to children.
And the NSA.
Tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children. And let's get all Americans the mental health services they need. More people can turn for help.
This is the most all over the place
between
speech.
physical and mental health care if we treat it that way in our insurance.
He went from social
You're
media
going to
to
dictate
mental
to
health.
insurance companies how they spend, that they have to have full parity in spending between mental and physical health?
Well, they just got a huge
How does
chunk
that
of-
even work?
They just got so much money from the government after it was subsidized that the government gives them money, so now they have some sort of
I guess
control,
so.
I guess. But
I guess
I've
so.
always believed that we have a sacred obligation to equip those we send to war and care for those in their family when they come home. My
And the VA.
administration providing assistance in job training, housing, and now helping lower-income veterans get VA care debt-free. And our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan have faced many dangers, one being stationed at bases breathing in toxic smoke from burn pits. Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times. These burn pits that incinerate waste, the waste of war, medical and hazardous material, jet fuel, and so much more.
Depleted
And they come
uranium.
home, many of the world's fittest and best trained warriors in the world. Never the same. Headaches, numbness, dizziness. A cancer that would put them in a flag-draped coffin. I know. One of those soldiers was my son, Major Bo Biden.
Did he
I don't know
just
for
use his
sure
kid?
if the burn pit that he lived near.
so I don't know if you could hear what the woman said. She brought up Afghanistan, and he talked about how we shouldn't have soldiers dying, and she said you put them there, 13 of them, talking about the 13 soldiers that died while trying to evacuate people from Afghanistan. And then he brought up his son.
Combat medic in Kosovo and Iraq, stationed near Baghdad, just yards from burn pits the size of football fields. Danielle is here with us tonight.
I guarantee that was Marjorie
They
Taylor
love going
Greene,
to
by
Ohio
the
State
way.
football games.
I don't know, but I know.
What is this? Congratulations on being stationed next to a burn pit? Like what?
And he loved building Legos with their daughter. But cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting. And neither did
Stop
she.
sending them over
Through
there.
her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better. The VA is part.
The VA wouldn't have to work so hard if you would stop sending people to fight in these meaningless wars, which a lot of people can say that there are that Russia. A lot of people can say that Russia didn't take any cues from us when they invaded Ukraine, but our pullout from Afghanistan is what kind of was like, yeah, this is what's going to give us the chutzpah to do this. Is your piss poor performance here?
Well, and also he can use the same claims that the U.S. used to invade former Yugoslavia.
Yes,
we're just protecting an ethnic minority that's being attacked by the majority government, which is what he said.
This is personal to me and to Jill and to Kamala and so many of you. So many of you have lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad. Cancer is the #2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease.
Oh, this is how he's going to end cancer.
Last month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago.
He's going to cut cancer in half by 2049.
By at least 50% over the next 25 years. I think we can do better than that. Turn cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there,
there's likely to be roughly that much of a reduction anyway.
ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health. Pattern after DARPA.
He's just going to change the name of cancer to something else on 50% of the types of cancer.
EPS and so much more to make our forces more safer.
He just made a healthcare DARPA.
With more clarity.
That's what he just said.
ARPA will have a singular purpose: to drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's and diabetes, and more. A unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things. It's within our power. And I don't see a partisan edge to any one of those.
He's just sitting there like, no, you're not.
My fellow Americans,
tonight, none of this is going to happen.
We've gathered in this sacred space, a citadel of democracy.
Sacred space.
In this capital, generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions amid great strife and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility, our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Our purpose is found. Our future is forged. Well, I know this nation. We'll meet the test, protect freedom and liberty, expand fairness and opportunity, and we will save democracy. As hard as those times have been, I'm more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life, because I see the future that's within our grasp, because I know there's simply nothing beyond our capacity. We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we've faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word: possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the State of the Union. And my report is this: the State of the Union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today.
We're strong. The union's not very strong.
And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
Go get who?
Right.
Go get him. I can't hear you.
Well, I haven't said anything.
Oh, okay. Go get him.
I was just, I was reeling for a second from that.
So I routinely talk about how politicians create crises and make them worse for that moment, to grandstand on your suffering and then say, but I've got great news, America. We're going to do more of what created that crisis or made it worse. You thought that healthcare focus from government on healthcare had caused the price of healthcare to go up. You ain't seen nothing yet. Wait till you hear about HARPA or ARPA-H or whatever it's called.
I think it's HARPA. I think he called it HARPA.
Yeah.
Which sounds like a Marx brother.
Is, yes, HARPA, our favorite Marx brother, HARPA Marx. That's actually the Marx sister, the little known Marx sister,
right.
Thanks to the patriarchy. You thought that, government driving up the cost of higher education, of 4-year school was bad. Wait till you see what we do to community college.
And childcare.
And childcare. You thought K through 16 was bad. Wait till you see what we do to pre-K and community college. And this whole thing with Ukraine. Yes, the Ukrainian people are suffering, which is why they should stop trying to treat them. The way that the government and media have talked about Ukrainian civilians as though they're going to hold back the Russian army and pumping them up like, oh yeah, you're going to be able to hold them up. They're going to get creamed. If Russia decides to go in hard, they're going to get creamed. Now, if Russia decided to invade Ukraine and occupy them long term, I do believe that would become a long and hard slog for Russia to try to maintain, especially as big as Ukraine's border is now. Easy it would be to continue to funnel weapons and things like that in there, and fighters that would join to fight the occupation. But in terms of this offensive, it's going to be brutal. And I would love to see that same level of energy for the 1 million+ victims of the genocide in Yemen that Saudi Arabia and Al Qaeda have been undertaking under the guidance, direction, and funding of the United States government. Where are the little flag pins and flag waving and talk about the determination and grit of the Yemeni people? Why aren't we hearing that? Oh, because the U.S. government's funding that one. Anyway, it was honestly what I expected. I expect him to talk more about Ukraine, but honestly, he wanted to get all of his big spending in.
I mean, so apparently he had a different speech written before the Ukraine situation came about. And a lot of that was going to be on big spending. It's going to be on a lot of social spending and, the Build Back Better stuff. And how that was going to be the focus. So he still fit most of it in, but he had to fit in the Ukraine stuff at the beginning and act like the United States has been there leading the charge against Russia, which we haven't been. We've been so far behind every other country on this that it's laughable for him to even attempt to say, yeah, we've been leading the charge. We're the ones that are out there for freedom and liberty and supporting the Ukrainian people. No, you aren't the ones that are doing it. It is literally everybody next door to Ukraine that is doing it. It is not Joe Biden, and it is not America.
No, exactly.
And if he thinks that, I'm going to preface this with, I'm not rooting for Russia or Putin. I think it's a travesty. No. But they have now put Putin in a very weird situation where he thought he was going to go in and run over Ukraine because he figured that they weren't going to get any support from the West. And then they did. So now he is stuck in a position where he knows he will get ousted if he doesn't win and gain more power in Russia. If people aren't fearing him, he will get ousted. He is now in a make or break moment where he is going to have to amp everything up. And if you think he is going to sit down and talk for peace talks, he's not. This man does not care. No. He will go after every single person.
Yeah, and the sad thing is a lot of the reason why, I don't know, sad thing, but the odd thing about this is one of the reasons why the Russian offensive isn't going as well is it turns out that their supply chain for their ground troops has been terrible. There has obviously been a lot of resistance from the Ukrainian military, which I would imagine, and the Ukrainian civilians, which I would imagine they expected. What they didn't expect was that even going 100, 150 miles into the country has not gone very well for them, which is surprising to me. That, I mean, they're leaving their home country and going into the neighboring country, and they're having a difficult time with that. Again, far be it from me to overestimate the ability of a government to do something, but I will say I'm surprised with how poorly that's gone. But this is just what was supposed to be an easy offensive. Russia has cluster bombs and fuel air bombs, thermobaric bombs that can choke off entire blocks of people. They have, before we even get into nukes, they have just in conventional weaponry so much stuff that can be used to brutalize the people of Ukraine. And I think he'll do it. I mean, again, far be it from me to make another prediction about what Russia is going to do in Ukraine, but I will say this: the man is not exactly well known for taking criticism, and I think that I don't think this ends well. Or subtlety. I don't think this ends well. I don't think this ends well at all.
If Ukraine is still standing, by the next time we do a show, I will be happy Ukraine is still standing, but I will be shocked.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I think there were still going to be Ukrainians alive, but you mean standing as in the government still functioning?
Right.
This next week is going to be a very crucial one on whether or not they're still standing. I will say that. I will admit I'm trigger shy on making some predictions, but
I get that.
I think that the posturing that Western media and corporate media and governments have done, this Zelensky guy, who, by the way, Vladimir, I just say Vladimir. It's not spelled that way. But it's Vladimir, but it's just spelled the Ukrainian way. It's actually Volodymyr, but it's Vladimir. Vladimir Zelensky. He was kind of thrust into this. He was an entertainer and a comedian who made a movie or a show about being a comedian who ran for president. And the people of Ukraine were so disgusted with their incredibly corrupt Soviet or Russian influenced and Western influenced politicians that they voted for him. Because they're like, you know what? Maybe you'll do a better job. You're not actually a politician. And so he won, and he's been thrust into this. I think he's doing his best with it, but he doesn't have the ability to actually effectively repel Russia. And I think that the rest of us, the rest of our countries and our governments are propping this guy. Instead of acknowledging the dire situation here, they're trying to prop this guy. Look, he's going to stop Putin. What happens when that all falls apart? How foolish is the foreign media going to look? How foolish is the Western press going to look, propping this guy up if it all ends up falling apart? If the people of Ukraine are massacred and the Russian government steps in and begins an occupation, how do you pivot back to, oh well, this was a terrible thing? I thought that Vladimir Zelensky was going to solve everything. It's
anyway. Everything that Joe Biden said after he touched on COVID for the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and then he went into Ukraine. Everything he said was how great the Ukrainian people are and how they're holding up one of the toughest militaries in the world and how we have to give it up to the Ukrainian people. What happens 6 days from now to 14 days from now when that is no longer what is happening? He can't pull it back. It's out there.
Yeah, it's out there. That's what I'm saying. They're putting this up like this isn't Red Dawn, guys. Like, you aren't going to have a scrappy group of civilians who are able to stop an invasion. Now, keep in mind, I can already hear the people going, oh, but what about the Taliban? What about Vietnam? They didn't stop the invasion. The Taliban wasn't able to stop the invasion. The Viet Cong weren't able to stop U.S. incursions or bombings. The Saddam Fedayeen and the Iraqi military weren't able to stop the U.S. incursion into Iraq. The Libyan military wasn't able to stop the incursion there. The Syrian military wasn't able to stop U.S. bombing there. They can't stop the bombings and the invasions of large industrialized militaries. They can slog them down in a long-term occupation and make them not want to be there anymore. But that's completely different from saying they're going to repel an invasion. That's foolish.
Especially one against one of the most vile psychopaths of modern history.
Yep. You're talking a very, very powerful government that's being run by essentially a dictator, and who is right now sees this as a test of pride. And you're sitting there telling them all the, oh, Putin, how about those Ukrainian civilians? You are setting them up for massive failure and atrocity instead of trying to get him to a negotiating table. It's unfortunate. And the thing is, the Ukrainian civilians, and frankly, the civilians in every country, including in Russia, who don't support this war, who had nothing to do with its decision making, and who could potentially get embroiled in a much larger conflict if this does blow up. If these constant provocations back and forth that led to this invasion, what if Putin does start heading west? How far west is he going to head before NATO and other Western countries start stepping in? I don't think he's going to do that. But what if he did? Now what? This is a major, major, major problem, and it is all because of the fact that you've got two sides that have been in a pissing contest, provoking and counter-provoking each other, the US and NATO, Russia and its allies, provoking and counter-provoking, treating Eastern Europe like it's a chessboard. And the biggest reason for that is because Ukraine gave up their ability to stop that dead in its tracks when it gave up its gave up its third largest stockpile of nuclear weapons in 1994 and finalized that transfer to Russia in 1996. Does anyone think that this invasion would be happening, or any of these incursions would be happening, or any of these provocations would be happening on either side if the third largest holder of nukes was Ukraine right now?
No, absolutely not. And the sanctions that they've put in place are laughable. They haven't been going after Russian natural gas or oil. And even if they do, China's going to pick up 100% of the slack coming from the rest of the world.
Yeah, 100%. Which is why they haven't cut off. In their defense, the reason they haven't cut it off is they know it'll hurt them more than Putin. So they're continuing to buy. They're continuing to fund like almost half of Russia's economy by continuing to buy their natural gas, because they've so neutered themselves in being able to provide their own energy needs by cutting off their nuclear and their fossil fuels and relying on freaking windmills and Russian natural gas, that now Putin that's going to continue coming in. And like you said, if they cut it off, he can just sell it to China. So it only hurts them.
And with the sanctions that we're going after their tech, we're going to make it harder for them to get semiconductors and whatever else he was saying. Where do those come from? They come from Taiwan.
Yeah.
China will just eventually go, okay, well, you're not letting that trade happen? Okay, well, we already have all their oil and gas. Let's go for Taiwan. Everything about this is like watching somebody play chess and the other person talk about what moves they should make.
Yeah, it is foolish to have a system that was set up to allow your corporate cronies that put you in office to destroy your local economy and ability to produce and ability to extract, so that they could go somewhere else and do it all there. And those countries happen to be the ones who are your biggest geopolitical foes. And then you are shocked to discover that suddenly you don't have the pull over them and the sway over them that you thought you did. It is incredible. They're like, oh, we cut off, quite a bit of their economy, and we've gone after their yachts and their mansions and all that crap. That doesn't do anything. You don't think they'll just buy more mansions and yachts? They run Russia. You don't think they'll just wait for this to blow over and buy more mansions and yachts? You haven't effectively. The one thing that probably was somewhat effective is that Russia has about $600 and some odd billion in reserves floating out there that they don't have access to. But it's not as though they're building the tanks and the fighter jets and so forth now that they're going to use in this invasion. At most, they'll be doing ammunition. And China is already increasing their ties with Russia. And again, I think that this was. I will say, I still think that this was, besides being wrong and immoral and uncalled for, it was also a bad idea by Russia. I mean, the Ukraine will definitely join EU after this. Ukraine probably will not be joining NATO, but I don't think that NATO was going to necessarily expand into Ukraine anyway. They certainly wanted to, but there were plenty of realists who saw the writing on the wall of what would happen if right now Ukraine was in NATO and the very real risk there. But these sanctions are going to be crippling. I think long term, this is still going to hurt Russia, but it's going to hurt everyone else too. And frankly, the whole thing could have been avoided if instead of constantly pissing back and forth and doing this escalation, there had been de-escalation and saying, no, you know what? If you want to keep acting this way, that's great. We're not going to keep pushing further to you and then pushing further and you pushing further to us and hoping that doesn't end in nuclear war.
So I don't think Spike's mic is peaking. All right, I'll turn it down. Sorry about that. We had very minimal time to get everything ready today.
Yes.
So I think the sanctions will hurt Russians. I don't think it hurts Russia.
The Russian government, probably not too much. It hurts everyday Russians.
But it's going to hurt everyday
Saddam Hussein
Russians.
never missed a meal.
Right, exactly. Putin has, like, saying that we're going to freeze his accounts. You don't know where half of his accounts are. Like, you have no clue. That man has billions of dollars tucked away places that you will never, ever find. You're not going to hurt him. You are going to hurt the people who are who are living there, who don't want this to be happening anyway. And they're out in the streets protesting, risking going to prison for life for protesting. Yeah. And you're going to hurt those people. You're not going to hurt Putin, and you're not going to hurt his men.
No, you're not. And what you're going to do, however many years from now, we're going to be talking about, the suffering of the poor Russian people and how we need to step up, because that's what Americans do, and step up and help them by giving them soybeans or whatever. And instead of like just not having destroyed their economy, which did nothing to stop the war effort. Let's be clear. These sanctions don't stop the war effort. They make Russian people hurt, and that's it. Does that eventually weaken Putin? Very possibly, but is it going to do anything right now other than make innocent people that had nothing to do with this suffer? No, it's not. It's just going to make them suffer.
Yes.
But so, with that said, hey, thanks for watching. I will. Join us tomorrow. Tomorrow is Wednesday. If you join us tomorrow, Wednesday is it's a wacky Wednesday, but it's also My Fellow Americans at 8 p.m. Eastern. My guest will be Anthony Samaroff. Finally. And because we've had to reschedule multiple times for the dumbest of reasons, usually on my side, sometimes on his. And we're going to be talking about his book, Universal Basic Income, Arguments For and Against. I don't want to spoiler alert, but I'm against it. And we're going to be talking about that and catching up with him. He's someone that thinks that the COVID regime isn't able to re-enter the U.S. So we'll be talking about what he's been up to. And then are you doing writer's block this Thursday?
I don't know. Yeah.
I might be believe
whether or not that's going to be happening. So for anybody who doesn't know, I have been hired to work on another job that I am really close to finishing the first portion of. So if I have a burst of energy to try to knock that part out, there won't be a writer's block this Thursday. But if I have a really great guest, I haven't even looked. If I have a really great guest, then I will push back on the bursts of creativity to finish this job, and I will be doing the writer's block.
You're not going to believe what happens Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern. Right here on Muddy Waters Media, or not. And then this Friday, come and join me at the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania convention in beautiful Williamsport, Pennsylvania, where this convention, it's going to be it's going to be a unity fest is what I call it. The Pennsylvania Unity Fest, where libertarians around the country are going to descend on this convention for unity and togetherness and happiness and brotherhood, sisterhood, and peoplehood. I don't know what non-binary siblinghood that they're also going to do. It's siblinghood. We'll just say siblinghood. They're going to engage in siblinghood. Defy the Power will be there. You are the power will be there because you will be there, and you are the power. And I'm Spike Cohen, and Tasha and I will be there. Yeah, it's going to be there's going to be a lot of hugging. It's going to be a lot of cheers and laughter and happiness. It's going to be a great time. So come join us, Williamsport, Pennsylvania. And then on Tuesday,
I believe that's where the Little League Baseball World Series is held. You should catch a game.
I could throw out the opening pitch. They won't know what hit them.
How bad would you feel watching a 14-year-old throw out better pitches than you?
I won't feel bad at all because that's what they do like all the time. I like to see them give a speech about quantitative easing. How about that, Matt? Okay. I'll bring them to Williamsport and say, here, go up there and talk about Ukraine. Timmy. I get up there, oh, yeah. Oh, good job.
How bad would you feel if you did that and Timmy knocks it out of the park and he's like, I've been following you for years, man.
And that's why we shouldn't even be there in the first place. They're like, Timmy. So then come and join us next week right here on Tuesday for another mouth-wateringly amazing episode of the Muddy Waters of Freedom, where Matt Wright and I parse through the week's events.
Do we have one next Tuesday?
You don't have one next Tuesday?
I don't know. Brian sent me a message a while ago saying that you had something going on in Texas. Collin County, Texas.
We will be in Texas, but I don't. Oh, no, wait, hold on. Oh, yeah. No, we can still do. We'll still do an episode. It's going to be at 8:15, starting at 8:15, because I'm doing another thing first. Catch us at 8:15.
So the time you normally catch us.
Yes, catch us the time you normally catch us at 8:15-ish for another amazing episode of the Muddy Waters Freedom, where Matt Wright and I parse through the week's events like the chipper little men, the manly men that we are. Matt, if someone were to try to look for us on the internet, is that even possible? And if so, how?
It is possible. It is possible.
Wow.
8:30-ish. Yeah, it'll be 8:30-ish because we're going to have to do audio testing.
Oh, yeah.
Because we don't want that to happen again. Yeah, it is possible. If you are one of those old school listeners who don't appreciate staring into the soulful, beautiful, and dashingly handsome faces of me and my co-host Spike, you can always listen to the sweet, soft, dulcet tones of our voices at anchor.fm/muddied.
I don't know if this works the same way as if I do it in my
I think it's fine.
Mic up.
I think it's
Just
fine.
turn it up. Yeah. Hey, everybody.
How's that?
There it is.
I hope everybody likes
that's
this.
nice.
That's good stuff.
That's good there. Yeah, I bet that's pleasant.
While you're there, you can do things like leave us messages that we will play live on the air. Will play live on the air. And we will.
Oh yeah, there it is.
You can
It's a sweet spot.
You can also
You ever had someone whisper into a Bluetooth mic? I bet that's just music.
That's just the sweetest sound.
Oh, my ears are loving that. I bet that's amazing.
That's so great. Or you can subscribe, and for less than the cost of a cup of coffee, 2 cups of coffee a month, If inflation keeps going, it'll be 1 cup, though.
Soon it'll be less than a cup of coffee.
Right. You can get so many great things from Muddied Waters that I don't even know what they are anymore because I haven't.
Muddy, you get access to an ad-free experience on Spotify and Anchor. You also get discounts on the Muddy Waters store and a discount at participating other companies like Defy the Power. And then you also get
I think the Defy the Power ended yesterday.
Oh crap! So but what you also get is you get. We'll get back to that. So what you also get is you get access to the Muddied Zoom, which is our Zoom call that we do every month. So all of that for less than $10 a month. Exactly 1 penny less than $10 a month.
Apparently, we're on Audible.
We're also on Audible.
I did not know that. Or you can find this and every other episode at muddiedwatersmedia.com.
Yes.
To our sponsors, sorry that we didn't go through you. We had some technical issues at the beginning, and literally right now I'm terrified of going back to the screen that has the sponsors on it because I don't want the audio to get all fucked up again. But we love all of you.
This episode was brought to you by the Libertarian Party Waffle House Caucus, the Gravy King, Joe Soloski for Pennsylvania Governor, JoeSoloski.com, and Defy the Power and Stitches and Glitches at defythepower.com and stitchesandglitches.com, as well as Mudwater. If you woke up today, don't do that. If you woke up today and said, hey, I had coffee, sucks, I don't want it no more, I'm sick of coffee, then we have something that tastes even worse. And you can get it. It's actually very good for you. And it's not that bad. Just put some honey. Put a lot of honey. You're going to want a lot of honey. Just put You're going to want some honey.
Put some honey in it. It's also not bad with creamer.
It's not bad with creamer or honey. That's what she said. And muddywatersofreedom.com/mud. You can get your starter pack today. It's really good for you. 1/7 of the caffeine of a cup of coffee. Just enough to get you all hyped up like me, but not so much to have you sad and lonely and breaking down every night like Matt. So folks, thanks so much for tuning in again. We really enjoyed your time. We love you. We are sorry that Joe Biden is president. We were only 80 million votes away. Or 79 million votes. I don't know, whatever. We were so close.
So close.
And yet 79 million away. But we're getting there. We podiumed. We got we got the bronze. And where we're going,
we don't need roads.
And now, Matt Wright and